Hi, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, and today I just wanted to do a real quick video showing you with just a few supplies how you can make a really elegant thinking of you card. And it doesn't take a whole lot of supplies, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but you get a lot of bang for your buck in this. I love the look of it. I love the clean, simple look, and the white on white to me just looks really special. So let's talk about this card. I'm going to be using the stamp set, Very Versailles, and we're just using the sentiment. Now, I have not done anything with the inside of this card, but on the inside, I would use this to do some stamping and then write my personal message. But this is the stamp set that I would feature with this card. Then I also used a piece of basic white cardstock that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. And then the only other piece of cardstock is a piece of 5 1/4 by 4, and that's going to make this panel. And what's unique about this card, and I hope it shows up on the camera, this is embossed, but there's a section in the middle where the writing is. You could not stamp something and emboss it on the dry embossed part. It would be bumpy and raised, and it wouldn't work real well. So in order to have your sentiment there, but also have your dry embossing, I'm going to show you a real easy technique that would work with any embossing folder. You could widen this or shorten this space. I have about 1 inch, but you could easily change that space if you wanted a taller sentiment, or if you wanted more space there in the middle, however you wanted to do it. You could do down the middle space. So I'm going to show you the thought process and how you would go about setting that up to get that look. Okay, and then I just used a few gems, and that's it, and some embossing powder. So let's get started with it. The real secret, if there is a secret, to this card, I'm using this floral embossing folder. And what I did on the front, this is just cardboard that comes in the specialty papers. It's a little thicker than the cardstock that comes with some of the papers. And I just cut a piece. The piece I cut, and these measurements really aren't important. All that matters is that they're wider than the cardstock piece that you're wanting to emboss. So I figured anything I did would be 5 1/4 by 4. So I just cut it 5 by 4 because I was worried about the width more than the height. The height isn't really going to matter for the design we're doing, but I wanted it to be at least be 4 inches wide because that's what my cardstock's going to be. So I cut that piece out, and then I just cut it in diagonal. I'm going to flip this over so you can see. I just cut it at a diagonal. So that gave me 2 separate pieces. And I taped them, this is just low tack tape, and I taped them on the front of my folder. And I'm just going to pull this one up just so you can see. And of course the low tack tape is going to peel my cardboard, but it really doesn't matter. So this is how the piece was. I cut it at a diagonal. Then when I put it on here, I just left a space, however much space you want. And I tried to make sure this was, that the distance here and here were equal. And then I just used my low tack tape. I may have to get another piece because this may not stick now. And I just taped them down on the front of the folder. Then I put my piece of cardstock in the middle so that it's covered. You want your cardstock to be covered by your piece here. You don't want it sticking out the edge, or you'll have parts along the edge, unless that's the look you want. And then whatever your embossing machine, whatever sandwich works. So I'm just going to put together my sandwich that works and run this through, and we'll see what we come up with. So let's take a look at this. And so what we come up with is our cardstock is embossed the places where because this is where you're putting pressure when you run it through your embossing machine. Here and here is where the pressure is being put. So that's where it's embossing. This middle part, there's not any pressure equal to the rest of it, so it can't get to that, and it doesn't emboss there. So we have this really cool effect in the middle of the card where there's no embossing. And that allows us to add our sentiment. And I love that look. I just think it looks really classy. So then from there, it's easy to finish up. I'm just going to use my embossing buddy, and I'm just going to go over the middle part so I can emboss it. I had a little speck of something, so I'm gonna go back over that. So I'm using the Always Thinking of You from Very Versailles, and I'm just gonna use the Versamark. And I'm just going to add some Versamark to this. And really, to me, the hardest part was trying to get this at a good angle. So I'm just going to put this on here and stamp that down, just like that. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap paper so I can put my embossing powder on it. And I'm using the gold. You could use any of the colors that you want. This would make a great wedding card since it's just the plain whites. You could use the black embossing powder, give it a good look. Silver would give it a good look. I got a little underneath there, so I'm gonna, okay. So there we have the sentiment. Okay, and so I'm just going to put this back in the container. And we're done with that scrap paper. So I'm just going to close this up so we don't spill it. And we're almost done with this card. Believe it or not, it's so easy to put together. So I'm just going to emboss this real quick. And if you're new to heat embossing, you just want to emboss it long enough that you see your powder turn glossy. And you may not be able to see it on the camera, but I can tilt it and I can see that all the powder is shiny. That means it's heated. If you heat it too long, you'll actually scorch the paper. So you definitely want to be careful of that. Now we're ready to add this to our card. And because of the embossing, and the ridges on the back, I'm going to use liquid glue. You could use the Stamp and Seal Plus, would be a good idea for this as well. I just like to use something that's heavy duty because of all the little ridges. So I'm gonna come in with this glue, with this liquid glue. Just put a good amount on the back. Not so much that it's squeezing out, but enough to be able to hold it. And then we're ready to bring the card base in, and we're just going to line this up. And also with the liquid glue, it's a little bit more forgiving. You have a little more time if you don't get it even. You do have a little bit of time to move it. And then I'm just going to press this down. I'm just going to hold it for a little just a minute because it's the liquid glue. And then I'm just going to fold this. And I got a smudge from my finger on there. So let me show you what I do with that. I don't know if you have discovered this, but it's a good tool to have. Stampin' Up! Does not sell these, but you can get them on Amazon. This is a sand eraser, and this brand is Mono. But when you get a little smudge like that, this eraser is really good for being able to just take that off and you haven't ruined your whole project. There's nothing worse than spending the time on the project and getting right to the end and having a little smudge, and then you feel like you've ruined your card. But you can see that that took that completely off. So That's my extra tip for today. So then I just came in with my, if I can find where I hid them from myself, my gold gems that I had sitting here with me. There they are. I knew I would find them. And I'm just going to use my take your pick tool. And I'm just going to add 3 of these. I'm going to add one of the large ones. And this is really probably the hardest part, is just deciding where you want to put the gems for, you know, to give it the eye appeal that you want. And I use an odd amount, 3 or 5, and I try to go in a triangular pattern that kind of guides your eye. So let's see, let's go here with this one. And it's that simple. And we have a card that looks elegant, looks like you've put a lot into it. It says to the person that gets it, hey, someone thought of you today. And it's really simple and just takes a few supplies to put together. You could change, with always thinking of you, that could be a lot of different scenarios. You could easily change this up to be a wedding card or for a bridal shower. Just anytime you need a special touch, this would be a great card to have in your stock. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to help you with that. You can check out my online store at karensmith.stampinup.net. I soon, hopefully, I will have a blog site up and going. I'm working on that, so hopefully that will be going soon. I'll let you know when that's up and ready. Check out my Facebook group, my Facebook page. We do Monday night Facebook Lives where I craft with you. If this is your first time joining me, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, give me a thumbs up, and we'll craft together again soon.